Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone who joined us. Media Center Ukraine Ukrinform starts its operations. Ninth year of war and the 135th day since the full-scale invasion of Russian aggressor to our land. And I thank you all who speaks the truth about our war, about the heroic resistance of Ukrainian nation. Today we'll speak about the consequences and overcoming the consequences of Russification and totalitarianism. And Mr. Minister Tkachenko is with us, the Minister of Culture and the Informational Policy. So what are the decisions of the Expert Council? The first decision was the renaming the Expert Council, because we called decommunization and Russification, but because an Expert Council, there are scientists, historians, they're part of our council, museum experts. So we wanted to rename it more precisely. It's Expert Council on overcoming the consequences of Russification and totalitarianism, because those terms, decommunization and Russification, they are more narrowed, of a wider scope of imperial and totalitarian policy. On the first session, there were two important decisions. We wrote recommendations that we can only give recommendation. I want to emphasize this. We operate in a narrow spectrum. Regarding morals of national and local importance, ministry has certain authorities. So what we recommended, decisions on removing from a public space or keeping the objects names of symbols of Russian imperial and Soviet totalitarian policy, it's relevant to consider following criterions. Extent of participation of those persons in implementation of Russian or Soviet policy, how those creations propagate imperial narratives and impact the development of science, the values orienters and attitude of that person to Ukraine identity and identity of nations of Ukraine. Instruments of totalitarian propaganda of that person, of that historical person. Irrelevant is presence of in public space names, objects, and symbols that are relevant to implementation of Russian imperial policy, political repressions, and other crimes of imperial territorial regime, names of Russian cities and other historic and geographical objects of Russian Federation that are not related to Ukrainian history. The persons that were propagating Russian and Soviet totalitarian policy, those who persecuted Ukrainian fighters for independence, were accomplices of repressions. Persons that were mythologized were part of myths of Soviet propaganda and are used by Russian propaganda currently to disseminate its narratives. In the process of cleaning the public space from imperial heritage, we have to prevent to remove actual historical persons, those who actually assisted in development of Ukrainian on world science, were tolerant to Ukraine and Ukrainian cultures, or fighting against totalitarian regime or were persecuted by that regime, whose creations were create consensus in their presence in coexistence. It's relevant to propose compromise solutions regarding our art objects, maybe masking or moving them to not to lose the cultural heritage. We were gathering, had several gatherings of 3 hours. Those were relevant. Those were very important. So there will be balanced decisions, and we call on all the local communities that are by 90% responsible in that of operation in this direction is to listen to the standpoint of experts that some communities could invite to solve the issue. Or you can address us, and we will gather with the expert community. One more decision we passed regarding this topical issue regarding the name of a national musical assembly by name of Mr. Tchaikovsky. We made an unanimous decision. To propose, we cannot impact. We can just recommend the team to gather and to remove the name of Tchaikovsky for several reasons. Of course, that's important, but it's a Russian composer. We have several other composers, Chopin and Mickiewicz, and we can recall many others, other last names, but we also have other conservatory that is named after Tchaikovsky in Moscow, so two names in different places after the same composer. We doubt that is relevant, so we recommend to change the name from Tchaikovsky. For important things that I wanted to recall as well that were happening lately, last week we had a unique meeting of several ministers of Central Europe, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania, Hungary, Moldova, where we discussed the topical issues and challenges that Ukrainian culture faces. Why? That was important that happened in Lviv, that occurred in Lviv, because firstly, our neighbors, the majority of our neighbors, for them it's clear the threat that moves on us from the east in person of Russian military and Putin's regime. To defend our cultural heritage during the war, it's very important because practically Putin is at war against our identity that is represented by our language, heritage, and history. And the joint front of the EU is important for us, and it's relevant to several directions. First is sanctions against Russian cultural representatives and propagandist channels. Is support of independent Ukrainian culture activists, though we need to fundraise for that. We agreed on that. And also we need to maintain the Ukrainian cultural heritage, not only from ruining, but to restore it. It's a principal position of my colleague ministers, my counterparts. We committed that thought to commissioners of the EU, and we will continue that operations. One of the targets of such meetings is informing the colleagues about the losses, damages that were caused to Ukraine, and creating a special foundation. We have United 24 with €5 billion for us to start the work on maintaining the Ukrainian culture and renew it. We need to voice and we need to speak on that foundation to be filled. Also, if anyone who is listening to us is not participating in voting in DIA regarding the shield on this motherland monument, over 400 people voted there. Please participate and vote. Why it is important to do? Because that's one of the democratic community presentation. When people can actually participate and it's clear, the decisions are clear, what are they grounded on? Not on a standpoint of patriots or not respected or not respected people, but on the standpoint of the majority who can participate. The process will be quite uneasy. The replacement of the shield, and from technological standpoint, there are several options on how we can do it, but we need to calculate them all, also from security reasons and safety reasons. Also, one more question I would like to cover. There were many questions regarding the law of imports of Russian book products. I would like to clarify the Ministry of Culture. We are pro-banning any book products from the territory of Russian Federation, not only in Russian language, but in any language. First thing. That's secondly, a question about print of authors on the territory of Ukraine in Russian or Ukrainian language. That's a question regarding rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. Therefore, we consider that all those questions related to white or black lists, I'm not speaking of imports of products, Here is the anonymous. We have anonymous set points. We have to they have to be regulated simultaneously because this sphere is quite large. We have unnormed decisions. We're not defined how to operate in movies or TV with those blacklists. Our position is making blacklists indubitably has to be done by the security service of Ukraine, and it has to be relevant to all the spheres, not only one sphere, like in the movies, but in music as well, in book products. So there are no, it's not dubious, it's not ambivalent. So it's clear what to do in a certain sphere that we're discussing when we replace Russian products, Russian cultural products on the territory of Ukraine. We also agitate our products, called on them to push out Russian product. I would like to notify in 2 News, Opera House excluded Russian Federation from its members, and the 28th of July, in Warsaw, they start a great tour. It's a joint project called Freedom of Ukraine Orchestra that is conducted with Metropolitan Opera, with our Polish musicians and Ukrainian musicians. And a large part of during their tour on the capitals of the world, they will play Ukrainian composers' music. That is the first kind of such cooperation. They'll raise Ukrainian music and understanding about our heritage, and raise awareness of more listeners, more viewers about our culture. That is in a nutshell about the list. Well, Mr. Minister, you said about white lists and black lists of cultural. Are there any white lists anywhere where our citizens could see them? I'm against white lists. I don't know. In the law of music, it said that they have to fill out certain forms and make those white lists. I think instead of make this procedure complicated, we have to just follow one track. There's blacklist, there's ban list. Those who are not on the ban list, we can work with. Also, there are restrictions in the legislation that were existing in the movies that we cannot use ones that were produced before 2014. It's also a restriction. Additional restrictions like ban of imports of any books or printed products. It's in addition to what could be regulated by a certain ban list. Dear colleagues, your questions, please. Metro Bedrock Ukrinform. Sir, you were speaking about questionnaires in DIA. Are those questioning planned to be regular, and how much time it's necessary for expert council to pass that questionnaire, and what is the dynamic of list of such questioning will be widened? From the standpoint of ministry, it's the first experience of using such opportunity because over 24 hours, over 400,000 people voted. I think further on we will use that in tools, but they have to be relevant only those important, well-known to Ukraine's problems, because when we discuss some issues, it's not a bubble that for a small amount of respected persons. No, DIA is an instrument of democratic mass voting, so it's relevant to use them in those moments when they are relevant to something symbolic, something important for the community. I wanted to say that the monument, demounted the monument of so-called friendship of Russian-Ukrainian nations in Pereyaslav. I want to emphasize that that was done within the legal framework. There was a request from the community to us. We approved it because this is a local importance monument. The mayor was dubious, but they made a decision. And they demounted it. It's a civilized, 100% civilized way how to demount monuments like that. I hope that one of the monuments in Odessa will be demounted the same way. I thank you. Oleksandr Tkachenko is with us, Minister of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine. Thank you. At 3 o'clock, we will have Dmytro Zhivitsky, Sumy, military administration, and we'll speak